Morning, everybody. So good to see you. I'm glad you're here. And then let me reiterate, welcome to Vinnings Lake if this is your first time here. We've been in this conversation called the Energetic Exchange, a fierce prioritization of our well-being. We're talking about a question that I asked many of you over the course of the last, 8 months or so. I said, how are we doing? It's a simple question. And many of you were brutally honest and you responded and just said, not well. Some of you said, I'm exhausted. Some of you said, I'm tired. Many of you said, I'm on the edge of burnout. And some of you said you were extremely anxious. And so I thought it would be foolish for us as a collective, as a community, to not address what we're feeling. I think we are conditioned as a culture a lot of times to ignore what our bodies are saying to us. I don't know about you, but I am a person that lives in the head. It's my favorite place to live. Partly because I'm familiar with it. It's like familiar territory. But the other part that I love about the head is that I have learned my head is a great place for me to hide from my body because I don't know what to do with my body because no one ever taught me what to do with my body. We live in a Western culture that only valued and prized intellectual assent. So what is happening in this part of the internal world? No one ever told me to pay attention. In fact, I grew up evangelical. My father, most of you know this, but was an evangelical fundamentalist Christian pastor. He told me my body was wretched. You know what I'm talking about? Like that world told me, whatever you do, don't pay attention to your heart, to your gut, to your instincts, to your body. Ignore all of that because it cannot be trusted. And I would just pose a question. How has that gotten us to where we are today? How is it working for us? I don't know about you, but I think one of the things that's happening in our moment right now is we are learning to connect with our bodies again. We're learning to listen. We are learning this truth that our bodies actually have more wisdom than we realize. And so what we decided to do was just lean in to this fatigue, lean into this exhaustion and say, what might our bodies be telling us? Now, we've talked about several things throughout this series, and we've taken some breaks because we live in America and a lot has transpired on the political scene, on the social scene. So we've kind of moved in and out of different things over the course of the last couple months. Today, I want to pick up where we left off, not last week because we weren't here. And I should add apologies to the many of you that showed up last week. We weren't here. And then the week before, we talked about what transpired with this political activist, Charlie Kirk. But the week before that, I started something that I never finished. So I want to go back to it. All right. So I want to go back to a particular story. This is found in the Gospel of Luke. This story is found in all three synoptic gospels. So Matthew, Mark, and Luke. It's loaded with insights around healing, around exploitation, around inclusivity. It's loaded with ideas around breaking the social and economic barriers of the first century. There's so much you can read into this story and so much you can pull out of the story. What I want to do is just focus on like one line in the story. And I want to talk about today specifically how we can like do an energetic audit of our own lives. This is what I want. I want you to audit your own energies, okay? And I'm talking about, when I say audit, I mean like I want you to evaluate this week what you are giving your energies to and how you are receiving energies back, because that is the energetic exchange, okay? So we titled it that thing for a reason, because the energetic exchange is the giving and receiving of energies. So the question is, do you know what you do all day? Are you intentional with what you do all day? Or are you the type of person that's like, well, things just happen. It just comes at me, and whatever happens, I just take it. That's a very powerless place to be. What if I told you we have more power than we realized? What if I told you that we actually can shape the world that we live in? What if I told you we can create the world that we live in? What if I told you you have more power than you realize. I think we saw that this week, by the way. Apparently there was a talk show host named Jimmy Kimmel, and he was released. And then, check it out. I don't know if you saw this, but it was actually really hopeful for me because the people came together and said, no, I know the Constitution, and you cannot silence free speech. And turns out Disney, they suffered financially. Disney did. Now, that's pretty monumental because I grew up in Florida, and I've been to Disney World. And it costs a lot of money to go in there, right? So if you have enough people and they say, I'll tell you what, if you're going to do that, we're going to do this. And then all of a sudden, because here's what we need to know, companies, and I know that you know this, but I think it's a good reminder because I've been reminded this week, most companies have zero integrity. I'm going to say that with confidence, zero. And here's why I say that. They will flow wherever the wind blows. And the reason I know that is because I remember when Biden was president, Visa came out with commercials that were like, oh, we're all for racial justice. These same companies, now that there's an authoritarian dictator in the office, are like, you know what? We'll cancel whoever he tells us to cancel. And what I want to say is, forget left and right for a minute. To all of you companies, just be honest about what you're doing. You don't care about racism. You care about money. And you're a business, so you should care about money. That's what you do. But here's what I would ask. Just be honest in your commercials that what you're after is dollars, because it is literally hypocrisy when you pose like you care about ethical issues when all you really care about is the dollar bill. And I think it's time for a lot of us to start looking towards these companies and making critical decisions like, what are we going to give our dollars to? I don't know about you, but I've been very intentional in the last 6 months. I have moved and shifted. This cell phone company, gone. I'll take on this one. By the way, I'm doing it right now. I'm driving a vehicle that I'm wrestling with going, not going to work. Now I got to figure out how to work this out because it turns out it's a really cheap one. And now I'm like, the other one that actually has a little bit of character integrity is a little bit more expensive. So is there a cost to this? You got to make decisions. Yeah. And I'll tell you why. Because we have more power than we realize. Now, all that said, I want to read this story to you, and I want to talk about an energetic audit, all right? And it's going to be a good time. By the way, I'm a little fired up. The book tour's already started. The book tour started. Yeah, don't worry. It's all good. So all week long, I've been in California hanging out with the liberals. And it's been so much fun. I was in Ojai, California. Do you know where Ojai is? I was in Ojai. Spent backyards. I did like these little things. Spent some time in backyards. My mentor, Rob Bell, we went to his house and hung out in a backyard. And it was so fun. And then I recorded a couple podcasts that I can't tell you about because they're so amazing. They'll be out in the middle of like October, which I can't even tell you how nervous I was walking in to record these podcasts about the book. I was terrified. I was like holding my mom's hand, who's also my wife, going, Mom, you please... And I've been doing this for years, and it does not matter because when you get on these larger stages, it's just like, right? And I'm like terrified. And it's a book on anxiety, which is all the more amazing. So, but I've been gone, and so we flew back late Friday night, and I'm like, oh man, and we're just getting started. So we'll do the thing on the 12th here, and then it's Tucson, Arizona, it's Houston, it's Nashville, and back to Atlanta. And so it's going to be, it's going to be such a fun season. So I cannot wait. But I am a little bit fired up. Also, our online presence has just like something happened. It exploded. And some of you are here because of TikTok, which is unbelievable. That blows my mind. Yeah, like a couple of you. That's fantastic. Welcome to all of you TikTok people who showed up. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. I don't read. I don't do negative or by and large positive intakes. I just don't. And part of the reason is people are like, what do you do with criticism? And I've told you this before. I'm clear on whose opinion matters to me. And some random stranger online, their opinion just doesn't matter to me. Now, all of that said, I take both praise and criticism in the same way. I think it's a reflection more of the person talking than it has anything to do with me, right? And I would encourage you to believe that too. It has less to do with your social media post and more to do with their own projection, okay? And that's both good and bad. And you'll get yourself in trouble if all you do is listen to the good and not the bad. So the best way to do it is just to push out both, okay, and get a clear circle of friends who you know have your best interest in mind, who can tell you the hard truth, but you'll never question if you listen to it, because here's what you know they only have your best interest in mind, all right? So this is how my wife and I have set up our own little boundaries and perimeters, especially with writing a book, because turns out there's a lot of people that hate what we're doing here in this space. Also turns out when you write a book, there are people that haven't even read it that are already against it, which is insanity. I mean, it hasn't even come out yet. How would you know? Like, I just don't like you. I'm like, okay, why don't you like me? I'm like, it's your pants. I'm like, okay, whatever. All right. Now, all of that said, occasionally my wife, when she gets, like here's an example. We were on a flight and, you're on it's like almost 4 hours to LA. And you're just kind of sitting, you fly through movies or whatever. I'm reading books. I worked on some VL stuff and I was just like, okay, I think I'm done. And we're both just sitting there. And Katie, sometimes she'll pull up TikTok as a form of entertainment. You know what I mean? And then she'll go to like the videos, the church post, which I don't have anything to do with that. We have a social media person that runs that. And so we'll go there and she'll occasionally read one that she thinks I'll find funny. And she sent me this one and I just think it's great. So whoever this is, that green life one, all right, said, the congregation, this is a video of me speaking, the congregation is absolutely not passing the vibe test. It's talking about you all. You're not passing the vibe test. And then this person went on to say, because this man is preaching his little white tail off. And here's my favorite line. And they are giving him nothing back. Nah. No. Don't worry. I don't want sympathy applause, all right? I'm just preaching my little white tail off up here. And actually, no worries. We got it fixed up. I told Zorzy, I was like, we need laugh tracks and applause tracks inserted in the... All right. So I hope you're feeling good. That's where my headspace has been. And honestly, being in California, the air there's a little less tension in the air over there. I'm not going to lie. Breathing in a little fresh air was good for this pastor's soul. It was kind of like going to the base. You know what I mean? If we're on the front lines, it was like, oh, there's Gatorade there. You know what I mean? Like, but they send their love and they love what we're doing over here in the heart of the Bible Belt. All right. Luke chapter 8, verse 40. Now, when Jesus returned, the crowd welcomed him, for they were all waiting for him. Can we pause there? Do you already feel how busy that is? The crowd was waiting for him. Do you ever feel like you wake up in the morning like there are people just waiting? Like, hey man, there's like 7 things. Got like 8 or 9 things. Some of you have kids. You're like, yeah, my kids are like in the other room going, breakfast. Like we got things to do today. Like just you already feel what the writer's doing there. They were all waiting for him. Just then there came a man named Jairus, a leader of the synagogue. He fell at Jesus' feet and began pleading with him to come to his house. Can I just pause there? Ignore everything for just a second, but hold on to that line and begin pleading with him for him to come to his house. I don't know how y'all's worlds are, but you ever do you have people who are like, hey, you ever have people beg you to come over? That happens to me occasionally, and I'm an introvert. I don't know of a more exhausting line than when someone says, do you want to come over? I'm like, As an introvert, I just must be honest, I'm just like a part of my insides dies a little bit because I'm like, no, you don't understand. Because just by very nature of how I'm wired, that drains a little bit of my body. And here's what's really hard navigating this, because my wife is the opposite. So when all week, Katie's like, okay, I literally, she is my tour manager this season. And she stresses me out every now and then. She'll be like, okay, we got that part done. Now, here's the other thing. While we're here in California, there's this person who runs a this person who runs a this, and we need to run over here and then move over here and go over here. And I'm just like, I'm already tired just listening to what you're saying. Katie loves it. She gets her fuel from it. She would sit in the backyard all night long. I guarantee you, I cannot think of the last time Katie and I went to an event where she said, I'm ready to go. Just throwing that out there. But I bet you money that I am always the first one going, wrap it up. You know what I mean? Like, gotta go, right? So, plead with him to come to his house. Verse 42. For he had an only daughter, about 12 years old, and she was dying. As he went, The crowds pressed in on him. You feel it? By the way, you could call those obligations and duties. When you start talking about the energetic exchange, everyone wants to talk about, yeah, but I have obligations, I have duties, I have responsibilities. And I just want to pause here and say, great, then maybe you need to prioritize your responsibilities, because is there a greater responsibility than your own well-being? Because some of you are like, I got to put my kids first. That looks great, and it sounds like a good tweet. And at first pass, you might be like, that's something Jesus would do. I would just pause and say, you do realize that when you are flying on an airplane, it's always put your mask on before you put your kid's mask on. There is a reason they say this, because if you are not well enough to take care of yourself, you're never going to be able to take care of your kids. And I want to pause here and say that both physically and spiritually. I have friends of mine who are suffocating spiritually because they have their kids at a church because they don't believe in any of it. They think the theology is very toxic, but they have a large student ministry with PlayStations, and the kid loves it. So they're like, just sometimes you got to sacrifice for the kid. And I would say, okay, great. I just want to pause here and just be very careful, because let me tell you what your kid sees more than video games. Your kid is fully aware of how alive you are spiritually. And if you don't think they're not listening and watching, you better believe they are. And also, I would add, I don't know if you can substitute the video games and all the people for how much they might have to unlearn the older they get. These things matter. And the reason I know that is because I look around this room. I'm a pastor. For the last decade, I have sent more people to therapy of people trying to unlearn such toxic theology that they were handed. And that is true for me. I write about it in the book, and we'll get into it, but I need you to hear me. Growing up, God was not safe. I need you to understand that God was not safe. And if the divine is not safe, then where can you go for safety? God was not safe. God was someone that if you didn't say the right things, do the right things, then you would spend eternity in burning fire. That's what I was handed. Do you understand that understanding of God is abusive? That's an abusive understanding of the divine. Yeah. Now, there's a woman who had been suffering from a flow of blood for 12 years. And though she had spent all on physicians, no one could cure her. She came up behind him and touched the fringe of his cloak, and immediately her flow of blood stopped. Then Jesus asked, "Who touched me?" And when they all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the crowds are hemming you in and pressing against you." But Jesus said, "Yeah, but someone touched me." And here's the line: "For I noticed that power had gone out from me." That's where I want to pause, all right? Fantastic line. Someone touched me because I noticed power had gone out from me. Now, let's talk about the energetic audit for just a minute here. Okay, first of all, what we have in this story is Jesus in the middle of constant demands. And in the middle of constant demands, Jesus does something very unique and does something that I think is worthy of our attention. Jesus pays attention to his own energy in this moment. He doesn't give his energies mindlessly or endlessly, but he notices the when, the where, the what, and the who of his giving. He seems to weigh what he's offering against what he has to offer. Jesus lives with a continual energetic audit, an awareness of both his limits and his love. He does not do more than what is his to do. His energies are not endless, but he is very intentional about what he gives his energies to. And this is where I want to pause, because I think this is the challenge for us in this particular season that we're living in more than ever, is I want you to understand that you have limits to your own energies. And your energies are a sacred commodity. And for you just to give them out as if it's endless is never going to work in the long term. And this is why perhaps many of us are fatigued. This is why perhaps many of us are exhausted. This is why perhaps many of us are so tired. Part of the reason is because we've never paused like Jesus in this moment and said, whoa, energy just left my body. And Jesus gets very specific. How did it leave my body? Who took it? We've got to drill down here and realize that there's some kind of energetic exchange that takes place in this moment, and it drains, it empties like a little bit of power from Jesus. And it's not, he's all for it in the end of the story. But in the moment, as it drains from him, he just pauses to recognize, oh, I'm a little more fatigued than I was 5 minutes ago. That's it. That's what I'm asking for you. I'm asking for you to have a consciousness or an awareness or an arising of an awareness, and that happens just by me talking about it, like you being aware this week. I want you to begin to notice the invisible realm. And when I say invisible realm, I mean energies are invisible. But I want you to begin to notice when you interact with certain people and certain things. I want you to take audit during the day. When you find yourself sitting at a table going, I'm so tired. Pause in that moment and just take a moment if you can and reflect what led you to being so tired. You might just say, because I didn't go to bed till late last night. That's basic stuff. Great. But I would ask a larger question. Why did you go to bed late last night? Well, because I got tied up in Netflix. Great. Nothing wrong with Netflix. But I would like to ask, why'd you get tied up in Netflix? Because it was a good show. Wonderful. Could there be something more behind that? Could it be a way of numbing? Could it be a way of retreating out of the chaos of this current moment, which is all good, but almost like a placebo of some sense, that you're needing some sense of medication? And maybe that comes back down to the reason you're doing that is because you've never learned like how to navigate the chaos that we're living in right now. Yeah, all these things. Maybe you're here and you say, God, I'm so tired. Pause. Let's go back. Why are you so exhausted? Maybe for you it's like, because I just had a meeting with my boss. Let's talk about your boss. Yeah, some of you are like, I've been wanting to talk about my boss. Let's please talk about my boss. Yeah, maybe he's narcissistic. Maybe you're encountering like textbook narcissistic personality disorder. That can be exhausting. I know that feeling. It can leave you very drained and weary. All right? Jesus in this moment just says there's an energetic exchange happening, and he's becoming aware. He's drawing attention to the invisible realm in which he actually loses a little bit of energy. And at the end of the story, he's all for it because he's like, this is why I have come. And that's it. It's not that we're against fatigue, because hear me, there is like soul fatigue, there is physical fatigue, and then there is like mind intellectual fatigue. And sometimes being drained is the greatest feeling ever, isn't it? There is a distinction to be made. I believe there is a big difference between burnout and being drained in all the best ways. I'll tell you why. When I finish this teaching on Sunday mornings, I go back to my house, I feel drained a little bit. All right? But I want you to know something. This is the path that I've chosen to take. It is the path that I believe is why I'm here. So I don't go drained as in, oh, I just extended energies that, man, really wiped me out. No, it's the good drain where I'm going, God, that was so much fun. But yes, I'm exhausted. And there is a difference between the two. Now, I want to just take an audit of a couple of things today throughout this morning, okay? And I want to start with a big one here and something that even happened to me this week. So let's start with the external audit of what we're giving our energies to, and we'll see how far we go, because I just want to give you like maybe 2 or 3 of them, and then we'll be out of here. But let's talk about relationships, and relationships in the context of energetic audits, all right? And here's what I mean by that. How many of you have relationships that drain you on a regular basis? You don't have to raise your hand, okay? You don't have to raise your hand. I mean, so fast. So you're only telling on yourself, people, all right? So fast. Yeah. Yeah, that's the question. Just pause. How many of you have relationships that drain you? All right? And some of you immediately shot up the hand. We need to talk about it. We need to talk about this. Okay? Let me ask you something. Those relationships that drain you, are they called on the surface, quote, friendships or family, unquote? My experience has been the relationships that drain most people are one that they see as obligatory relationships. Okay? So here's what I mean. You chose to be here. So I'd argue probably isn't a lot of people in here that you have a relationship with that are draining you. In fact, I hear the opposite. Most of you are like, I leave the relationships that are draining me to come to Vinings Lake to actually receive and like feel life and joy and love and affirmation and that the world is upside down and I'm not the only crazy one. Yes. Welcome. Hopefully this is what this space is. Hopefully it fills you. That's the whole point. All right. That's what Jesus did. Jesus broke himself open, poured himself out for the healing of the world. This is what I believe our collective is doing in the world. You go out, you break yourself open, but at some point you have to fill yourself back up. Because if you keep breaking yourself open, you keep opening your body for the healing of the world, and you don't pour in, there'll be nothing left to break open. So this is why we gather at the table. This is why I still believe in a local church. This is why I believe in local community. Because I don't know about you, but I need to come together on a regular basis. And I need to see some of you, hug some of you, talk to some of you. Because check it out, we're all giving and receiving in this room multiple times. And we need to be filled up. We need a place where we go out going, God, man, can you believe the world we live in? Because I'm just going to tell you something. This is the most absurd time I've ever seen in 44 years of living on this planet. The most absurd moment ever. And I even talk to older people now, and I'm like, hey, tell me, what was life like during JFK and like Dr. King's assassination? And I'm not kidding you. I've had a couple of like those folks that just like wasn't as crazy as this. And I'm like, not encouraging. Yeah. You know when like the older generation's like, yeah, this is some pretty crazy times we're living in. I'm like, brother, you've been here for 85 years? And this is the crazy time? Like, I'm like, that says something, right? That says something. And that's where all the alarms are even going off. When I'm meeting older folks that are like, the democracy is at stake. I mean, I just want you to know the red flags are up going, yeah, there's a reason that person's saying that. They've been around. They've, like, the globe has orbited a few times and they've seen a lot. And in their wisdom, they're looking going, we've got a problem. Yeah. Yes. Now, all of that to say, many of us, the relationships that we have, the ones that drain us, are not like these. Many of us, the ones that drain us, are the ones that we would call, check it out, or they would call friends. Friends. And I just want to pause here. You don't have to raise your hand, but how many of you have, quote, friends that when you're around them, it drains you? Okay? And don't raise your hand on somebody. How many of you have family that when you're around them, it drains you? And then here's what I want to ask about that draining for just a minute. Here's the question. How long does it take you to detox from that interaction? That is the question. We're auditing. How long does it take you to detox from that family member? Thank you. This is the question. How long does it take you to detox from that interaction? And some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. You go, this is why there's a running joke. You go to the family get-together, Christmas, Thanksgiving, the holidays are coming up. You leave, and many of you are like, here's what you do. You get in the car, watch your body, watch the body language. You get in the car, and I'm only saying this because this happened to my wife and I. You get in the car and you go, you see what you just did? Or check this out. Anybody else have like a partner, spouse, whatever? You get in the car and man, it is full on, forgive the analogy, just vomiting frustration. Oh my God, you could cut the tension in my car sometimes leaving family gatherings. Because Kenny and I both would be like, just all out. Can you believe they said this? Can you believe they said this? They had no social awareness at all. They didn't even see that person was sitting at that table when they said that. Like, how are you oblivious to who's at the table? You know what I'm talking about? Like, all those things. And then it's like, good Lord, I asked a question. Like, I asked one question, and then they didn't even acknowledge the question. They just came back about something amazing they're doing in their life, going, that's textbook narcissism. Not one time in the 4 days I was with this family, not one time did they say, how are you doing? Are we preaching now? Because I'm preaching my little white tail off and no one's saying anything in here, all right? How long does it take you to detox from that interaction? And here's the other question. Who decided you had to put up with that relationship? Who decided you had to be in that relationship? I know some of you are like, yeah, but it's my mom. Who decided you had to be in that relationship? By the way, there is a lie in our culture, and I want you to hear this. There is a lie that says family's the most important thing. I actually don't believe that. Because I know some of you, to be in family would be for me as a pastor to say, go back to your abuser. Imagine a pastor that was like giving marriage counseling or a therapist giving marriage counseling and someone came in and was like, have bruises all over their bodies. And the therapist goes, look, the right thing to do. And some of you know this because you've been in church, pastors that pose as therapists. Oh, the most toxic thing ever. As a man who just wrote a book on anxiety, fully aware. Opening line of the book, by the way, just want to throw that out there. You own what you aren't. Opening line of the book, I am not a therapist, all right? So we just own it, all right? I am a fellow participant in the human experience, right? Now, that said, imagine a couple coming in, the man, and then the woman has black eyes, and the therapist is just like, look, here's what you need to do. According to Jesus, forgive 70 times 7, and you need to just go work it out and get back with the guy. No. That's a toxic understanding of, first of all, what the Bible is actually being written about. And then second, I would say that's the most foolish thing you could ever do is to tell someone to run back to their abuser. Yes, some of you all, metaphorically speaking, are literally showing up here on the front steps of VL, and you're just like, yeah, but it's my mom. I'm just trying to work it out. And I would just say to you, no, you need to protect yourself. You're getting abused again and again, and I want you to understand something. You're only putting yourself in harm's way. And if some of you are like, God, that just doesn't feel very Christian-y, I hear what you're saying, but I also want to just say this to you. This Jesus was also the same Jesus that said, when he was asked, he said, check this out, I have not come to bring peace but a sword. That came out of the mouth of Jesus, according to the gospel writers. You're like, whoa, I thought he was like anti-violence. It's metaphorical, because he goes on to say, I have not come to bring peace but a sword. That is, if you follow this narrow path, it will set mother against daughter and father against son. Those are Jesus' words. What is he saying? It's like somehow he knew that when you set out on this straight and narrow, the path of love that is least taken, when you set out on the path of integrity that few people take, when you set on the path that cares about the marginalized, the outcast, and the alone, a lot of people aren't going to be interested in that. And when you set out on that path, you will find yourself with the most unlikely of enemies and oppressors and abusers. And they may very well be the ones that you call family. And so, I would say to you, who decided that you had to be in that relationship? And the reason I'm bringing this to your attention is because I don't want you to feel powerless. I want you to be empowered. Again, you get to decide what world you live in. Now, hear me. I know because some of you are like, that's a very privileged thing to say. I do get it. But I want you to understand this. Okay? There are some people that we encounter that just run into somehow our field. Great. But I'm talking about the ones that you are continually encountering. And some of you, you come to me and listen, I try not to be like really harsh because that's not my heart. But I also am an outsider looking in on your situation. And I just keep wanting to say, I don't know what else to say to you other than a dog keeps returning to its own vomit in Proverbs. And I don't know what else to say to you other than if you keep doing what you're doing, you'll keep receiving the abuse that you're receiving. And you are not disempowered. And if you're here and you're unsatisfied with your life, right now there's so many people rethinking their life. Can I empower you for a minute? Go. Leave the state. Do what you need to do. Go where you need to go. You have more power than you realize. And then when you get out there and you're like, not what I thought, at least you tried it. Now you know. Yeah. But don't move from here. Like, we need all of you here. Do you know what I'm talking about? Don't leave me alone in the Bible Belt, all right? Here's what I would say. If you are allowing yourself to be in positions where other people take from you and drain you, then you are not being a good steward of your own energies. Now, I want to introduce you to a word that some of you know really well, and you could run circles around me with the word, but we're just going to throw it out here because it's part of the conversation. Here it is. Boundaries. Settle. Boundaries. Now, for those of you that are unfamiliar, boundaries in practice, you could say a boundary is a limit you set to protect your well-being, values, and calling. Boundaries is an act of stewardship. It is not selfishness. Boundaries is a way of saying yes to what matters most to you by saying no to what doesn't matter most to you. Okay? It is a prioritization of why you are here. Now, many of you aren't even aware of this, but you do boundaries all day long. You're unconscious about it. When you get up in the morning, you automatically say no to a lot of things, and you're saying yes to the things that you are here to do. You do that immediately. When you get up on social media, you can flip through. If the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning, which I don't recommend, is to pop open your phone and to fly through and doom scroll. Even doom scrolling, if you think about it, you're making decisions. Fly by that, that's no good, that's no good. You're saying no because you're after a priority. What is that priority? My attention. Something that sparks me. Great. Stop right there. Ooh, that's interesting. Ted Cruz. He agrees with me? Free speech? Yeah. By the way, anybody else having the time of your life? Because here's the thing that you need to understand. I'm not interested in being left. I've said that 1,000 times. That's not my identity. People want to, everyone would go vote. Y'all ever go vote and they're like, which party? And I'm like, neither? They're like, oh, centrist? Stop putting me in a party. What I am interested in is truth. Period. And this is what we said. This is why the Epstein files. Can we use this example? Listen, I know Trump, but what about Bill Clinton? Yes. Bring him. What I'm saying is, do you understand when I say I'm interested in truth, I mean truth. I don't care who's on the docket. All of them need to be held accountable. Truth is what I'm interested in. And sometimes, and this may seem really bizarre, sometimes the truth is even said out of the most bizarre humans. And so I saw Ted Cruz say something about free speech, and I'm like, who knew? But check it out. It's truth. I'm like, there's some truth. I'm like that. Yes. Right. And I've said it 1,000 times. It's not that I agree with Ted. Ted agrees with me. So here we go. You got to get it straightened out, people. All right? Now, all of that said, we are saying no to a lot of things, so we say yes. So immediately, some of you do that when you get up in the morning, and then you make decisions. What am I going to wear today? You're saying no to something to say yes to something, and then who am I going to interact with? What am I going to do when I get there? What's the priorities today? But then way before time, you decided what you were going to do this week. Some of you are like, it's just I'm in school. Yeah, but a long time ago, you made a decision to go back to school. So you said no to a bunch of things in your life to say yes to some things in your life because you have a mission, a goal. You want to accomplish something. Yes, some of you just stepped into, new relationships. Fantastic. Great. A couple Saturdays ago, I married these people right here, Honey and Jerry. All right, come on. If you people knew how much alcohol was in this room from their party 2 nights ago. Welcome to Vinings Lake. Now, all of that said, again, these are called boundaries. Now, I want to give you just real quick, can I give you like a real, I almost didn't share it because it's a little too soon, but I'm just like, it's Vinings Lake, nothing's too soon. So I want to share this with you, like that happened to me in the last couple of weeks. And because I couldn't think of a better example, I'm like, oh my God. And this isn't like an example to show you how to do it, because certainly I could drill down in my own ways and be like, I should have done this, or I should have said this, or whatever. But I want to read some of these to you because I think you might resonate with it a little bit, because I know many of you, when you talk about relationships, energetic audits, most of you right now, we're all probably in similar spaces, navigating some of the similar conversations right now. And again, this is just audit of relationships. We need to talk about the causes in your life. Like, what are you doing? Like, I used to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I've said this before, but I was unremarkable at a lot of things. And what I wanted to get clear on is what all I'm doing has nothing to do with me sometimes, and so I've gotten really clear about why I'm here and what we're doing, and really kind of focusing and zero in on the few things that I am here to do, right? Now, so there are many ways. You could talk about your calendar. You need to audit your calendar. Is there any space in your calendar? Seriously, is it always so jammed up that you have no room for anything? That's problematic. We need to talk about your calendar. We need to talk about your social media intake, because there's a cost to looking at social media. Okay? We need to talk about your routines. Do you have a regular routine where you have a few moments of silence in your life? All those. So when I say audit, we're stopping at relationships, but this thing runs deep. Audit it. Figure it out. Like, work in it. Get in it and figure some things out. Now, all that said, I want to show you like relationships and boundaries of how these worked out in play for me in the last couple of weeks, okay? So several months ago, I had a text message came through. I didn't recognize the number. And then this individual said who they were. And I was like, oh, I remember them. They used to come to Vinings Lake some time ago. And by the way, I stopped there because some of you are like, who could it be? All right, no one you know, all right? So it's all good, all right? But this individual, like, because Vinings Lake had so many iterations over the years, and these were people some time ago. But the text came in, and it said something to the effect of, "Hey, I've been hearing some of the things you're saying at Vinings Lake, and I would like to get together to discuss it." Okay. Now, I've been a pastor now for over a decade, almost 20 years, if you include when we started Vinings Lake, me helping teaching. When I receive messages like that, I already just know you're dealing with someone who went to Emory. Okay, so let me just say that. All right. But already, it's like, it's not 3, but it is certainly 1 red flag. You know what I'm talking about? So already, and I'm gonna just tell you something. Here's how you can usually gauge with an energetic audit. The moment I saw the text, feel what your body feels. Immediately, it was like a. Now, I didn't do that out loud, but internally. Have you ever had a text come in and immediately you're like, you have an actual physical sensation to a text that came in? Now already you've moved from the digital to the emotional within one text. And I'm going to tell you something. You can usually trust what your body is feeling. So here's how I knew in the moment, that sounds exhausting. I'll tell you why. Because the text exhausted me. And if the text exhausted me, there's a pretty good chance that conversation would do nothing but leave me drained and angry. This is just a real-time illustration, but we're going to keep going because that's just the beginning. I respond, all kinds of lovely things. I'm just giving you a few sound bites. I am currently focusing my energies on our spiritual collective Vinings Lake and an upcoming book launch. Much happening in my world that is requiring some abnormal discipline to be focused on why I'm here. I know you know about that, and I know you understand. Thanks a lot. Great. I think it was a thumbs up. Now I want you to just notice what happened. Invitation, decline invitation. You don't have to give an explanation to anything. But this individual, pretty good guy. I'll let him know why. Insert, giving my energies to other things right now. Book tour, a lot of things happen in my life. I'm trying to stay focused. Great. Thumbs up. In my mind, that's done. I've moved on. I'm giving my energies back to the things I need to give my energies. Let's move on. In this individual's mind, game on. All right? Game on. And I bring that to your attention because some of you know what I'm talking about. Because I can use boundaries and be all pretty up here, like, oh, look at him talking about boundaries. Let's use boundaries. But you may know what the boundaries are, but you might have family members that don't care about your boundaries. Okay? So months go by. I have long stopped thinking about it. Just that was a brief interaction. It's gone. Months go by. Email in my inbox 3 weeks ago. I see the name. Now, I want to tell you what I do, just a little insight. I generally, if it's coming through, somehow it got, because, well, there is some back stuff. I have people that help with emails, but it generally comes in. If I see it, I usually read the first line and I listen to my body. Now, I'm telling you this and I'm giving away my cards because some of you are going to email me and say everything in the first line. I'm like, no, you got me, all right? I can usually read the first line and you just listen to your body. But here's the thing. I didn't even have to read the first line, though I did, because I knew who the email was from. So in my mind, I want to tell you how this works, and some of you probably know this. In my mind, I'm going, oh, I put up a boundary. Now this individual refused to accept the boundary. So check it out. They've moved the playing field to a different medium. Okay, are you with me? So now we've gone from texting to, well, I'll just email. So I'm going through another door, and maybe months later he's changed his mind. Okay? So emails. So I don't respond at all. Let me tell you why. Because I don't have to. And here's a deep spiritual thing. Don't want to. Yeah, and I say that, and some of you are like, that feels very arrogant. No, some of you have over-spiritualized all this. If you don't want to, don't. You're okay. You understand that. And I want to empower you. So you're like, well, I just got to do the Lord's work. Get out of here. What is the Lord's work? No. All right? Now, I don't respond. And by not responding, I want you to hear me, that is a response. You're clear, right? That response is, we've already discussed this. By not responding, I am reinforcing my boundary. Keeps going. First line on the email, you and your church. You know what I love? I love that now you're all in on this. It's talking about you. And quite frankly, you all are the problem. It's not me, all right? But this direction, something like, you all used to be people that love Jesus, and now you've bought into the radical left. And I just want to pause here and say a couple things. First of all, I am a big fan of spiral dynamics. Ken Wilber, it's a trajectory chart. I'm all into stages of consciousness. I love it. I believe what is happening right now, just on a personal note, I believe all of it is working for the evolution of the consciousness of our own nation. That's just an opinion of mine. I believe we're moving not just to new stages of consciousness, I believe we're moving into new levels of consciousness, and I believe we're on our way to what theorists call integral theory, which is a fully integrated stage of consciousness. And what they say by that is 15% of the nation needs to be at integral stages of consciousness for the world to move that way. And I believe we're teetering on the edge of about 5 or 6%. And I believe what's happening is life is giving us what we need for the evolution of our consciousness. And as much as we hate the conflict and all that's happening and blah, it's all so weird. Yep. This is how we grow. So that does not mean I just accept injustice. No. I resist it. I fight it. Simultaneously, I believe somehow this curriculum we've been handed has been given to us so that we can all move into greater stages of consciousness as a human civilization. Okay? That's just a personal riff after a few Moscow mules. Just me. All right? All of that said, I am fully aware. I left Christian right-wing fundamentalism and ran as far as I could to the far left and hit a wall that looked very much so like the far right. Same fundamentalism. I mean, if you put the far left and the far right together, you'd be like, you actually have more in common than you realize. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in that. I've tried to say this 1,000 times. I am deeply interested in the way of Jesus. He captured my heart as a young kid. I haven't been a moment where I have not been obsessed with his teachings and the way he moved about the world. And so I'm doing my best to follow truth, beauty, goodness, all of that. But I just want you to know something. Sometimes when you're following that path, you will be labeled all kinds of things. And I will say it's very telling in America when just following Jesus' very basic principles of love God, love your neighbor, look out for the marginalized, the outcast, the alone, speak out for those who can't speak for themselves. Basic 101 Bible. It's very telling that when you do that, you're considered a radical left. And what I would say to you is, if you think I'm radical left, I want to be very clear, God, you would have a real problem with Jesus of Nazareth. I didn't put all that in the text. That just came out, all right? And I would just say to you, email was sent, didn't respond. I'm going back to it. Okay. I'm on a flight to start a book tour, which I already sent months ago to this individual. Didn't respond to the email. Another medium backdoor. I'm on a flight, getting ready to take off. Oh, I am feeling good. You know what I'm talking about? Like, I've done my breath work. You know what I mean? Like full-on yoga mode. And I'm like, oh, look at me going into California to talk about anxiety. I'm going to be in backyards with the hippies. The gurus are all there. All my gurus were in the backyard, and I was talking to them like, oh, this is weird. Right? So I'm in zone. When I tell you I'm in zone, I'm like, and Katie knows this, like, now real gurus, they embrace it all. I'm not at that level yet. I'm at the level of I'm in zone, don't talk to me. This is all zoning out. And I'm like in zone. Noise cancellation, AirPods in. Oh my God, if you don't have any of those, people, we need to take an offering so everybody can buy one. One of the greatest things ever. When I tell you noise cancellation, you can't hear anything. Oh my God, it's the best. It is the best technology ever made. You can't hear anything. It's like silence, and I'm just sitting in their zone, and all of a sudden I feel my phone. I'm just like, and then I'm like, life will give you whatever you need for the evolution of your consciousness. Pull up my phone. It's him. You know, like almost like somehow in my mind, in my evangelical mind, all the demons got together and he was at that meeting. Because, you know, he's obviously working for Satan. Like, that's how we played in our minds. Got together and they're like, what time? They're like, ooh, right when he's about to take off. Text with an arrow pointing to something I'd said like a year ago. I don't respond. Another text. Starting to build in rage. You know what I'm talking about? Now, let me tell you what my body's doing in this moment. Going, oh, this is how this works. I need to tell you something because this is a white male, and I need you to hear me. White males are really in a bad spot right now because they feel like they're being oppressed, but it's not really oppression. It's called equality. And white males feel like equality is equivalent to oppression for them. And I want to say to my white male brothers and sisters, as a white cisgendered male, can we recognize that what you are experiencing with your sensitivity is not oppression? It is actually, for the first time in your life, in my life, in the history of America, where equality is actually rising to the surface, and for the first time you're realizing how toxic your white supremacy actually is. Yeah. And I just want to say one more thing. Good Lord, we're all off the rails, but let's just throw this one. I want to say one more thing. We must stop fooling ourselves, to my white brothers and sisters in this room. I have never been more clear on what I see as racism than I am right now. I have whittled through all the politics, and I've come to one conclusion. A bulk of what is happening in our country right now still stems from the greatest American shadow that we never addressed, and that is racism. And I had people this week because the dog whistle has been sent. And you may not feel that or understand that, but when what happened to Charlie Kirk happened, the leader of the free world, of the white supremacist movement, our president, stood up and gave a whistle, and his minions are out. And they're coming after people just like us. And they don't much care anymore about those who've been pushed to the edges, the marginalized, the outcast. But I tell you who really, really they care about are people who look just like them, but they're saying the opposite of what they're saying. So they're coming at white males just like me, and we have felt it this week from threats on and on the list goes. People I know, people I don't know. And I just want to say to all of them that are listening, I need you to hear me. We can deny it. We can numb ourselves to it. We can take down as many posts on slavery as you want in every museum across the nation. But I want you to know, if you do not address your real racism and white supremacy now, your grandkids will have to address it later. But make no mistake, it will eventually be addressed. And every year in our culture, we keep pushing it down, pushing it down, pushing it down. Didn't happen. Act like it didn't happen. And I'm telling you, you cannot heal it if you do not name it. And we must name this racism. And we must stop fooling ourselves. I gave a quote 2 weeks ago about what Charlie Kirk said about black women and not having the brain processing power, so they took white positions. And someone said, you got the quote wrong, when in fact I did get the quote wrong. So let me just address it. Charlie Kirk did not say, quote, black women. He named 4 specific black women, and one of them being Michelle Obama. Okay? But I want to pause here, and they say, see, it isn't racist. Here's what I'd like to say. Stop rebranding racism. You and I both know exactly what is being said, and I am so nauseous of living in a culture where white leaders are standing up and they're sanitizing racism with these slights and these little cuts and acting like I'm the least racist person in the room. You're not fooling anyone. And I see it, and the reason I know it is because I am you. I am a white male. I grew up as you grew up. And hear me when I tell you, I've spent the last decade having to heal the deepest, darkest shadows of racism in my own heart. And if I've had to do that, then you better believe it's in you too. He's preaching his white little tail off. We got to go. All right. Can I just finish? Because it keeps going. So the buzz. And I'm about to take off, and I was like, okay. Settle down. I'm getting there. All right. So we're talking about boundaries. So what did you do next? I never respond in the moment to anything. I pause. I'd usually try to give 24 hours, but in this case, I want to say something. It enraged me, and I don't normally get like angry, but I went from to let's go. You know what I'm talking about? Like, and I'm not even like, look at me, like that may feel very egotistical, but the reason you do that, the reason your body does that, is because you're trying to protect yourself, right? That's what you do. It's an act of protection. And I felt like he was violating the no trespassing sign for the 4th time. And when you violate it at some point, there are consequences to the violating. And so I was like, but then Katie was just like, here's a pretzel. And I'm like, yeah. So sipping my little sparkling water with a little pretzel, like starting the book tour, it's going to be great, whatever. And so I go the whole flight, and I'm like, whatever. And then right towards the end of the flight, I'm like, you know what? Here's what might be a good step for me. I want to, since he pointed at the text above, I want to reinforce my text above. So he moved mediums because I didn't respond by email. So he came back through. Then he pointed at things I said above. So I thought, wasn't that interesting? And this is just like a lot of people on the far right now and the far left, but I mean, predominantly we're being ruled by authoritarianism right now. But they cannot see their own hypocrisy. So like in the text, he was like, oh, remember you said this, remember you said this, remember you said this. I'm like, if you'll keep going, they want to talk about context. If you'll keep going, go all the way down. Look at that text. Remember the one I sent you that said I'm focusing my energies here? And we agreed on that? I think you forgot about that. Oh, you didn't forget about that. It's just your white supremacy showing because no one's ever told you no. You know what I'm saying? Here's the thing you need to learn about white males, and I say this as a white male. Please forgive us because we rarely told no. So when we're out busting up in the world like, what do you mean I can't have that? That stinks of supremacy. And I want you to know, I say that as a person who's like, woe is me. I see it in myself. Some of you are like, it's in you too, brother. You don't have to point it out. I feel it. All right? Yeah. I feel it. I see it. There are moments. I'm in the family gatherings. I'm like, whoa, that was not even code. That wasn't even slight racism. That's full racism. And white supremacy doesn't know what to do when it's told no. There are males right now that are like, I mean, it isn't just white supremacy. It's patriarchy, misogyny. You don't tell us what to do. My God. And so I decided what might be good is to reinforce the boundary one time. Now, I'll tell you why I did that. Some of you are like, that's a step too far. I'd have went, cut, block. You can do that. Full liberation. I decided to, and I'll tell you why. Because at this point, they were a part of this collective. And here's the thing that you need to know. I do tend to try to lean a little bit more towards grace. And here's why. Because I know this individual, and there is on my best days, my heart breaks a little bit. Because I think this individual is just projecting, going, you've become radical left, when the reality is he's really moved far right. And I also know white males, and I know that many of us were sucked in by Joe Rogan and people like that, who've now denounced and gone back to the center because they realized it wasn't what they thought. But white males who don't have a lot of meaning in their life and were conditioned to have racism got sucked into this man named Trump and his cult that are going, we have a mission for you. Come join us. And they just bought in because of some sense of meaning. And they looked out and didn't have jobs or anywhere to go. So they're like, oh, this is a place to go. I'm not trying to sympathize the abuser. I'm just letting you know all of us have our own issues of why we're falling into certain things. And so there's a part of me that my heart kind of was like, okay, so I'll just reinforce the boundary. So I did, and we're closing here, by the way. I said, quote, I'm in California on a book tour. As mentioned in my previous text, I'm focusing my energies in some very specific ways this season. I truly appreciate your concern about me, and I want you to know I'm doing just fine. I'd be grateful if you could honor this season of prioritization that I mentioned in the previous text. I also would invite you to set yourself free from me not being who you need me to be. It's a good line, isn't it? I have to give credit. That came from my friend Rob Bell, who I spent a couple of days with in Ojai, all right? But I didn't quote him. I owned that one, all right? And then I just said, I know you understand. Now, that was my last reinforcement of boundaries. I'd already made up my mind before sending that text. I'm going to do one of two things. Either he responds back and says, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. If you ever get a chance, let's talk. He stays. I've already worked out my boundary. If he doesn't respond, he stays. If he comes back with anything other than those two, I've already worked it out. I'm not questioning in the moment. He's blocked. He's cut. He's moved out of ring in the layer of friendships and circles. So he responds back. I was persistent texting and emailing because you were persistent in your church's online presence of spitting out divisive rhetoric. The ways you're focusing yourself are what's wrong with this country. And then he said, I shouldn't be surprised you're in California. And I just want you to know, in that moment, he showed the level of immaturity. So any question about maturity went right out the door with one statement. I don't want you to be anything other than yourself, but it looks like you've lost that. I'm distancing myself from the poison you are feeding people. And I hope that your book isn't a manipulation masked as self-help. Now, you're like, brother, what's his address? All right, just... No. This is an example. He's hurt. He's hurt because no one's ever told him no. He probably has very rarely had a boundary placed against him. This is new territory for a white male. So I gave a little grace, gave a little more grace. He kept intruding in the boundary. And what did you do? Block. Email. Block. Yeah. So you move it out a layer. Now, all of that said, how about we close with this quote? Oh my God, we've gone way, they're going to kill me in the back. Okay. Let's just close with this quote. It won't be on the screen. Someone said this. I'm not sure exactly who it was, but I loved it. The only people who get upset about you setting boundaries are the ones who were benefiting from you having none. The only people who get upset about you setting boundaries are the ones who were benefiting from you having none. I give you all this today to just say, I know how crazy the world is we're in. But I also want you to know this. You have more power than you realize. Friends, would you audit your energies this week? And would you and I start becoming like an athlete in training, cutting out the things that are distracting and we don't need in our lives and giving our energies to the very things we are here to do? Because I remind you, and I say this with authority, we need you here. This earth needs you. This country needs you. Your kids need you. This church needs you. I need you. We need each other more than ever. And we need you dialed in, giving the energy specifically to the things that you are here to do. And we'd prefer you to be at 100% battery charged when you do it. So friends, be empowered. Yeah, maybe today you need to start blocking. Maybe today you need to go out and just start getting serious about your calendar. Maybe you need to sit down with your partner or spouse, open up the calendar and go, we need to rethink some of this. Yes. All right. Vinings Lake, thank you so much for listening today. Peace be with you. We'll see you next Sunday.